You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth, down in Houston, over in El Paso, and anywhere else inside or outside the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening on this Tuesday, August 13th. Welcome into the program. Glad to have you with us here on the show today. Hope you have had a wonderful day. A lot to get into on the program today. Kids starting to get back into school across the state of Texas. We'll get into that on the show today about education, the future of education, what it may look like here in Texas when it comes to, exactly what students will be learning. We'll get into that topic. We've got 2024 election news to get into as well here on the program. Get your thoughts on all the latest happening there. And, of course, we've got some interesting statewide, local headlines that we'll be getting into throughout the program today. So we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to get to today on the show. And, of course, we always want to hear from you. That's what we love about being on air and local, all that kind of good stuff. That way you have a way of getting in touch with us and letting us know your thoughts on, well, really any of the issues, any of the issues of the day. You can text in at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can text in with your thoughts on any of the topics of the day. You can also give us a call at any time at 1-800-687-0790. That's 1-800-687-0790. When you give us a call, you, of course, you got to get past Nick, the first voice you hear from when you dial in today. Like I said, we just have really a lot to get into throughout the program, including some new polling news that's out there, some interesting polling data that's out there, and the question today, or at least one of the possible questions out there, are we maybe are we starting to see the honeymoon not maybe die off, but is it starting to wane just a little bit? Are things about to? Are we getting closer to Kamala Harris coming back down to earth again? We'll get into all of that on the program today. One new poll out showing that 55% of voters disapprove of Joe Biden. Not that that really matters anymore, since he's a lame duck. It doesn't really matter if people think he's doing a great job or not. And of course, he's really been out of sight, out of mind. I think a lot of people maybe have forgotten that, yeah, Joe Biden is he's still the president. Somehow he's still the president. Not necessarily that he's the one making decisions every single day, but he is still president of the United States. So that's still going on right now. Also, a story that came out just a little bit ago from, I believe it was Axios who first reported on this. The Harris campaign has been accused of editing news headlines and descriptions with Google search ads to make it appear as if major news outlets, including The Guardian, Reuters, and CBS News, are supporting her, which, I mean, they kind of are. I mean, it's not like her campaign has to try real hard on any of this stuff. But again, we're starting to see some actual reporting going on the Kamala Harris campaign. We'll get into that during the program today. Nick, the first voice you hear from when you dial in. Nick, are you having a good day today?
I don't know if it's good.
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't say it's bad. It's one of those days where everything was slow.
Yeah.
Everything was normal. And then, about 2:30 hit, and all of that changed. Very busy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Tis the season, I suppose.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Of the old flip of the switch, normal to busy. So that's where I am. Good or bad, I don't know. I'm here.
That's good.
That's me.
It sounds like it's a Tuesday for you, Nick.
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it sounds like
I should
it's
have
a
started
Tuesday.
with that. Yeah, it's just the birthday season's over.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it
I mean,
absolutely is
that's,
for you. Yeah.
That time has passed.
Yeah. No more happy birthday.
Joy is gone.
In fact, today you actually made a mistake in our in our big meeting that we had with well, I guess it wasn't you who made it. You didn't out yourself. But someone outed you as having a birthday party at a local establishment here in the hub city, and none of us were invited,
That's right.
except for, I guess, your one friend up here. And no one else was invited.
Well, hey, I mean,
and people had mentioned, oh, well, that sounds like it would have been a great time,
Yeah.
a lot of fun to go to, Nick.
if I invite one person, then I have to invite another, and then it's just a snowball, and then all of a
Sure.
sudden I've got, Joe from the corner of the street has to come by, and,
Yeah.
it's just, we just wanted to avoid it. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So-
So a lot of people not happy with you
Yeah.
in the building today, it
Yeah.
seems.
Well, it was my birthday,
That's
So-
true.
And
It's
I
your
was
birthday.
happy.
You can do what you want.
And that I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Today's running topic. We're going to have some fun with this one. You got kids going back to school all over the state of Texas, whether it was yesterday, today, tomorrow, next week. I think a week later you still have some students going back. But 'tis the season for students to go back to school. The question that we have for you, go back to your childhood. For some of you, it may be you have to go back a while to your child. Now, this could be junior high. This could be high school, maybe elementary, but definitely junior high to early years of high school. What were some of the must-have back-to-school items that you just had to have? You had to have a brand new whatever it may be. Like some of the answers already popping up on social media. The Big Chief tablet. That's popping up a little bit on the Facebook question that we asked of the KFYO Facebook group. And then we something else that's popped up a couple of times, the Trapper Keeper. The Trapper, always a big favorite. The Trapper Keeper for those in the late 80s, early 90s kids had the Trapper. I actually looked it up. Trapper Keepers still exist. I had no idea. But they're still out there. Someone somewhere is still buying a Trapper Keeper. I don't know if students are, but someone somewhere is still buying a Trapper Keeper. You have your pencil box, your pencil, the removable erasers. So those things that you had to have, the must-have items. You could go with also this. Your favorite lunchbox, because some people had to have a brand new lunchbox every year when they were going to school. Junior high, you had to. Maybe it was the Batman lunchbox. Maybe it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle lunchbox that you just had to have. What were those must-have back-to-school items from your childhood, you can text in at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can get in touch with us. Let us know the must-have back-to-school items from when you were a kid. You can weigh in on the text line again at 806-680-2790. Let's see here. The story out of Fox News coming out a little bit ago. Harris campaign dropping the wall on one basic task with the Walz rollout. Democrat and GOP strategists have agreed with it. The Harris campaign did not properly prepare for potential attacks on the VP running mate Tim Walz's record, according to political strategists from both sides of the aisle. Quote, the Walz military record story, clearly a failure of reverse opposition research by the Harris campaign, a Democrat strategist told Fox News. Comments come as Walz has continued to face scrutiny over his military records, with critics accusing the vice presidential candidate of stolen valor. But the media is really not going after him that much. Have you noticed that the media really wants to turn this against J.D. Vance and say, well, this really isn't stolen valor. It's just semantics. No, it's not. But the media is trying. They're doing their best to cover for Tim Walz on this. Critics have suggested and claimed that Walz used language when describing his time in the service, misleadingly suggesting that he served in a war zone, including one statement in which he would like to ban the kind of weapons that he had carried in war, despite never being deployed to a combat zone during his 24 years of service. In response to the controversy, the Harris campaign said Walz misspoke when making the carried-in-war remarks. He didn't misspeak. They knew exactly what he was doing. That line was rehearsed. That line was tried out. These people do when they roll these lines out there, when they're going out and making these big speeches about how they're going to get guns off the streets, all of these lines are tested. They're all written out. He didn't misspeak on any of it. Don't buy into that at all. 806-680-2790. When we come back, we'll find out. Many of you texted in already some of your must-haves for the back-to-school items when you were a child. We'll get to those when we come back.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at kfyo.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
We are the boy band. Your tween made you see. We are the boy band. It's painful concert number 3. We are the boy band. We're 5 and 19. We are the boy band. Always singing on key.
You love your kids enough to take them to see their favorite band. Love them enough to make sure they're buckled up in the back seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Some of the text messages coming in. We got the Trapper Keepers. Oh, yeah. Lisa Frank Binder. There's like Lisa Frank everything. I remember in the 90s, just Lisa Frank everything. Also had to buy red pens for teachers to grade your papers. Now, yeah, they can't grade in red anymore. I don't think any teachers grade in red. They had to get rid of that because the red ink was traumatizing to the children. Robert 401 says that my childhood was so long ago you might find a stone tablet of mine at an archaeological dig. Another texture, the Frito Bandito eraser. Another texture, I got one pair of shoes in August each year. They had to last until next August, had holes in them by June, so I went barefoot after school, let out in May. Another texture, cigar box, mid-60s, elementary school. We had a few people on social media to say that they had all their stuff, their little pencils and erasers and everything in the cigar box. Let's see. Favorite lunchbox when I was in school in the 1950s, Appalachia, was my brown bag with a sandwich in it. Back to school accessories, new pants, new shirt, new winter shoes. That's from Old Fart in Wiley. 806-680-2790. You can get in on your when you were a child, your must-have back-to-school items that you just had to have when you were a kid. You can text in 806-680-2790. Not necessarily school supply, like what the teachers told you to pick up, but things you wanted. Of course, you had the pencil boxes. You threw your pencils in there. The multi-pen, the multi-ink pen, where you had the different colors. We had those back in the 90s. That was something. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. We'll get to some of these texts are asking if I've seen the poll out of Florida. Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later on. The media has definitely had an impact on this race. I mean, that's clearly what we've seen. And Republicans have got to fight back against the national news media and this narrative that they've been pushing. A story that came out earlier today from the Washington Examiner, media's pro-Harris hype is affecting polls. The media hype surrounding Kamala Harris since she entered the presidential race now showing evidence of shifting the polls and the election in her favor. The reason is simple. The mostly left-wing leaning press focuses on the vice president's joyful campaign and sharpening their attacks on the former president. Consider this. Voters say they're being overwhelmed with the Harris honeymoon coverage. In Tuesday's morning consult polling note, voters said they've heard something positive about Harris, far more than Trump. The gap is in double digits, 47% to 33%. In the analysis, it says Harris's media honeymoon continues to roll on. For the third straight week, running since launching her presidential campaign, voters remained more likely to say that they've heard something positive than negative about Harris by a double-digit margin. Her net buzz rating, the share of voters who've heard something positive minus those who have heard something negative, best Trump's rating from last week by a whopping 33 points. In the head-to-head poll, it shows Harris up over Trump 47 to 44%, although the lead is down 1 point since the vice president's all-time 4-point lead. The liberal media's promotion of Harris has drawn scorn from conservative news outlets and media critics. Some, for example, compare the coverage of Trump and Harris on identical issues, found the Republican is criticized while the Democrat is praised. And we saw this from CBS News. CBS News, when Trump vowed to stop taxing tips, this is the CBS tweet that went out. Former President Donald Trump's vow to stop taxing tips would cost the federal government up to $250 billion over 10 years, according to a nonpartisan watchdog group. When Kamala Harris proposed it over the weekend, they said this. Vice President Kamala Harris is rolling out a new policy position, saying she'll fight to end taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. Nothing negative about it at all. No, not questioning what Harris has proposed, even though she is copying Donald Trump on this. Now the White House is copying Donald Trump. And many of those in the media not wanting to give Trump any credit whatsoever for this idea. The media have also shown to be unapologetically activists for Harris. The Washington Post White House reporter, for example, pushed for Joe Biden's press secretary to stop the interview of Trump by Elon Musk on his platform, X. They're going to be emboldened by this, folks. And that's why Republicans have got to fight back against the national news media. They have to. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
On the road with Mr. Rhodes.
I see a lot of things on the road that make me wonder. Like someone in a cow costume selling beef jerky? I mean, if I were a cow, would I be selling beef? And one thing I've got to beef with is pedestrians not using intersections and crosswalks. Those horizontal stripes keep you from ending up horizontal. Cross only when the signal says walk. And always look left, right, left. That's a key to staying safe on foot. And that makes Mr. Rhodes very happy.
Be safe, walk smart. A message from TxDOT.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty, talking the news. At the start, middle, and end of your drive home, and when news breaks. This is the Chad Hasty Show.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Nick says the one of the back-to-school items, the metal bendy ruler. Yeah, that was something. That was one of the must. We just had to have a ruler of some kind, but a lot of people would get those because you could slap other kids with it and go to war against each other if you absolutely needed to. Needed the bottle of black ink and a refillable pen. Posey Elementary, 1958. Texture Mike and Lubbock, A-Team, Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard lunchboxes. Cool. Let's see. We've got Elizabeth in Lubbock weighing in. School supplies. I had to look up what a trapper keeper is because I'm too old to know. We just had 3 ring binders and notebooks. They had to have the plastic windows on both the front and back so you could put people's photographs and school ribbons and other memorabilia in there. Elementary school go-to supply was always the box 64 Crayola with a sharpener on the side of the box like other listeners. I also had the cigar box for pencils, scissors, erasers, or an official blue and white school box. That was just a cigar box marketed differently. I wonder what year the cigar boxes stopped. That would have been cool to walk in. Back when I was in school, come in with a cigar box. That would have been awesome. Probably would have been thrown in jail. SWAT team called in. Are there cigars in there, sir? You asked about lunchboxes. I had a Star Trek lunchbox, broke or lost, the thermos, also the Partridge Family lunchbox. You know, it made me think when I saw that, when I initially saw the text from Elizabeth about the Partridge Family, I was thinking, what TV shows today would possibly have a lunchbox? I don't even know. I know they have lunchboxes there. They have fancy lunchboxes now. But like, what TV shows today would actually have like a lunch of the family? Like, what would be the? I don't know. I mean, I don't watch a lot of network TV, so I don't know if there'd be any family. Probably Family Guy. Maybe that's about it. I don't know. Let's see. Another thing about the beginning of school, always made sure to accumulate brown paper grocery bags so I could cover all my textbooks. It was a big ritual at the beginning of the school year. Yeah, they would just give us the books, and we would spend time in class covering the textbook with the big pieces of paper that they gave us. And then there was always someone who just couldn't get it. There was always some kid in the class. Nick, did y'all have to do that where you covered the textbook with paper? Like you had to put a book protector around the book.
We didn't do it with paper, but we would. It was optional. You could buy like a stretchy, sort of like a mesh cover,
right,
that you could put over your textbooks.
Yeah.
I remember in grade school they allowed that because a lot of different schools said no because they didn't want you covering what was the book. You know, they wanted to know what you were reading.
Right.
But in this case, you take a math book, and your parents, they would buy like this stretchy material that would like over, and then you'd have like fun patterns, and it would look cool, and you could do different colors on your books.
See, we had you walked in, they gave you a book, they assigned you a book, and it's like, okay, now I've got 50 pounds in my backpack, thanks, and it was like, okay, thank you, and then it was okay. We're going to cover, so everyone grab a long piece of paper basically, and it showed you where to make all the folds. And you would put your book down and you would cover your textbook with this, and it had a design on the front, or you could turn it on the other side that was blank. And if you were artistic or just up to no good, you would have a place to draw, do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we had to do that, and like the first few days of school, that's all you did. You basically found out if you had all your stuff for school, and then you covered books. And that was like the first 2 days of school, was making sure that you were just ready to go. 806-680-2790. Lawrence weighed in. Chad, call me spoiled. In elementary school, the 64 color crayon box with the sharpener in the back. Also, it had the racist color of flesh. Yeah, the flesh color crayon. Let's see another text. We have to dig up all the statements Harris made that resulted in her being the first Democrat out of the 2020 presidential primary to remind Democrats why they don't like her. Make the point she literally stole the primary by lying about Biden's fitness for office, and point out every flip-flop that she's made. Not only that, we have to somehow get that information in front of actual Democrat voters. We have very little time to do it. Harris couldn't win in an honest mainstream media. No, she couldn't win. And you're exactly right. And here's the deal. Democrats are going to vote for her. Democrats are going to vote for her. It's the independents and the never Trumpers, or I've seen this idea, the conservatives for Kamala. Have you seen this big BS movement that's out there? And I don't even buy that it's a real movement. This Republicans or conservative for Kamala. And I've seen this written about, usually by the same old people that think they're smarter than you, believe they're smarter, they're more conservative than you, that they've always fought for conservatism more than you. They're trying to say, well, since Trump is a conservative, for the good of the conservative movement, for the good of conservatism, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. Listen, if you are a Republican and you have decided to vote for Kamala Harris, you are not a Republican and you are not a conservative. You're nowhere close. A Republican, a conservative, someone who loves freedom, and someone who loves this country could not vote for Kamala Harris. You just can't. If you know anything about her background, which is not hard to Google, if you know anything about her background, you should know that if you consider yourself a freedom-loving American, someone who enjoys, someone who is a conservative, someone who's a Republican, you consider yourself on that line, you can't vote for Kamala Harris. And I can't tell you how many just different editorials I've seen from these supposed conservatives, supposed Republicans who are coming out and going, well, listen, it's only 4 years. It's only 4 years. Only 4 years. 4 years can bring about a lot of damage in this country. A lot of damage to this country. 806-680-2790. You can send in your thoughts. Another text, the set of markers, 70s to 80s that you had to get. The yellow always smelled putrid. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. VA disability compensation is a monthly tax-free payment to veterans who got sick or injured in the military and to veterans whose service worsened an existing condition. You may qualify for VA disability compensation for physical and mental health conditions that developed or worsened due to service. Learn more at va.gov/disability.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Some other text messages. We've been asking you your the school supplies that the must-have school supplies from back in the day, back when you were a kid. What were they? What were they must-have back-to-school items when you were a kid? A texter weighing in. Star Wars lunchbox for the win. Let's see. Trapper Keepers. Another texter saying calculators. Hey, remember when they said we wouldn't always have calculators with us? Yeah. But someone brought that up on social media, too, this week to me. There was a day, you probably never experienced this, Nick, when you were in the classroom. But I remember we had the old TI calculator. And we would have it in some classes, some math classes, you could use the calculator. They were like, yeah, sure, you can use the calculator. And then when you would get into the upper class, no. And when you would ask, why can't we use a calculator as a classroom? Why can't we? Because you will not always have a calculator on you. Oh, really? iPhone.
It's
always.
It's funny you brought that up. All through grade school, middle school, all that, all before high school. We learned how to use a calculator.
Yeah.
We had them in the classrooms. We had to bring them, whatever, if we had to purchase them or borrow them. But I am young enough where in high school, I remember my physics class, we had to use a calculator.
Yeah.
And all of us had smartphones. So our teacher showed us how we can, I don't know the legality on this, but she showed us how we can get an emulator on our phone. We had to download these files, and we got a TI, like the brand new version,
right,
of the big science. I don't know what the term is. The big calculator where you can do everything on it. The cosine graphs, all that. You can get it on your phone.
Yeah.
So we all had it on our phones, so that we never had to borrow it was quote free. We just downloaded it. She just sent us the file. We downloaded it on all of our phones. Could have been a virus. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. It worked. We got to do everything that we needed. And but I think that was my senior year. So it was just at the end of my school career.
Yeah.
Was when we did that.
And see, now with the new iOS that they're rolling out, and I'm sure Google will have something as well if they don't already.
Mm-hmm.
You will be able to, if you have the Magic Pencil, they're rolling something out where it's like Notes Plus, where you'll be able to write the math problem, whatever type of math problem it is. You kids, you kids are so lucky out there. You'll be able to write down whatever math problem it is, and it answers it.
That's so crazy to me.
You don't have to even know math. And I'm telling you, that I know that I have some people out there listening going, Chad, you still have to know math. I'm telling you right now, the students will not know math when they get to college. The kids who are getting into elementary school now, by the time they get into college and you take technology away from them, half of them are already like this today. But by the time young children reach college or reach the workforce, give it 10 years. You take away technology, everything's going to shut down. And we should really fear this as a society, because all it's going to take is a solar flare, or God help us, a terrorist attack takes down the grid. No one's going to have any idea how to, when you go to the checkout lane, if they lose power, if for some reason the tablet's not working, and you hand them back a 50, they're going to have no clue. No clue whatsoever. And then, for other, we don't have to use a lot of math here on the broadcast side, but in other areas where you actually have to use it, in real jobs where math is key, you're just going to bring out your iPad and put everything there, and it'll just answer. AI will answer for you. We're just dumbing down society. It's amazing technology, but it's absolutely going to make society just dumber, which is probably just going by what we've seen lately. We probably don't need this. We need to start a movement to get rid of technology. We don't need any more progress. We need to go back to the Stone Age. Go back, let people learn things, make learning great again. Can we do that? Make learning great again. Texter, anything Nike was something that was a must-have. It was all about the Air Jordans in the 90s. Loved the Air Jordans. Always had to have the Jordans. Let's see. Chad, if you open the calculator on your phone, you turn the phone sideways, it automatically becomes a scientific calculator. Did you know that? Yeah. Of course, I don't have to use a lot of scientific calculator for this, but yeah, I knew that one. Gordo weighed in. Hasty, first-time listener, long-time texter. I had a Dukes of Hazzard lunchbox. It was awesome. Anything made of Dukes of Hazzard, I had it for school. Paul from Post weighed in. When a senior in high school used my old plastic film containers for contraband. That's resourceful. and I guess recycling at the same time. So that works. Let's see. Joe in Merkel, a place I got pulled over once, said Wolfram Alpha has been a huge math resource online for years, solves everything. Oh, I'm sure it does. But see, again, this, you just write the problem down and automatically it answers it. Like, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to take the step to go online. You just, and it'll probably, you could probably scan the problem with your phone. It'll appear and it'll just answer for you. That's where we're going. Lucky kids. Don't even have to know anything now. But they didn't. The kids today, they don't have the cool lunch boxes that we had. We had cool lunch boxes back in the day. Big thermoses. Well, I guess they got the big cups now. All the kids have the big cups. Make sure their drink is cold all day long. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is The Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Final hour of the program. Having some fun on this Tuesday, getting into the news of the day. Also, kind of taking a look back as we're asking the question: what were the must-have back-to-school items when you were a kid? Whether it's lunch boxes, or we had a lot of Trapper Keepers. Lisa Frank, everything that's been offered up. The different erasers that you could use. Yeah, you can text in. Some people say Nike. Gotta have the Jordans. Gotta have the Jordans. Absolutely. Had to have the new shoes. We've had a lot of that, both from men and women. So you had to have some new shoes. Had to have the new shoes for the new school year. 806-680-2790. You can text in with your what were your must-have back-to-school items for when you were a kid. We've also been talking about the 2024 campaign. Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. A story from Fox News. Close contest between Trump and Harris in a battleground state turned red. Trump carried Florida by 3.3 points over Biden in 2020, but Republicans surged in the Sunshine State in 2022. A new poll, though, suggests the former president holds a slim 5-point advantage over Harris in the battle for Florida's 30 electoral votes. Trump, the Republican presidential nominee, stands at 47% support among likely voters in Florida in a USA Today poll released on Tuesday, with Harris at 42%. The survey of 500 likely Florida voters indicates the Democrat turned independent Robert F. Kennedy at 5%. Libertarian Party nominee Chase Oliver at 1%. Jill Stein and Cornel West also getting less than 1% in the poll. Florida was once the largest of the battleground states in the presidential election. Former President Obama narrowly carried the state in 2008 and 2012. Trump edged out Hillary Clinton to win the state in 2016. 4 years ago, in his 2020 re-election defeat, Trump actually won Florida by over 3 points over Biden, which has been the biggest margin in the state in presidential contest in 16 years. During the 2022 midterms, conservatives surged at the state level, with Republican Governor Ron DeSantis winning re-election by 19 percentage points and Marco Rubio securing a third term in the Senate by more than 16 percentage points. So, am I worried about Florida? No. The presidential politics are closer than on the state level. And you see that in other states as well. You've seen that here in Texas before, where some of these statewide officials will fare better with more Republican or more support than you'll see some of the national guys get. We have seen that before here in Texas. We've seen it in other states too. So I'm not too worried about Florida at this point. Show me a poll where Harris is up, then maybe you start getting worried. But right now, Trump up by 5 in Florida, I think it's, hey, I'll take it. A win is a win in Florida, and up by 5 percentage points, that's a slam dunk compared to, again, past presidential elections. The problem is the other swing states, and the other swing states have, as of right now, swung towards Kamala Harris. Now, the polls can come back, and I think they'll begin to. I think they eventually will swing back the other way. And I think that eventually you're going to have Kamala Harris not look like the joyful candidate that the media likes to portray her as. And again, Republicans are going to drop a whole lot of money as they're going to have to in order to educate the public on who Kamala Harris is. You're going to have two different ways of defining Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is, and the Democrats will try to define her one way during the convention next week. Now, I'm sure many of you, most of you, will not be watching the Democrat convention. I will probably be watching at least one of the days next week. I'm on vacation half the week next week, but at least the first part of the week, I'll watch. I got to be the good radio show host on Monday. Come back on Tuesday and let you know how crazy it was. It's not bad, Nick. I only have to watch one day of the Democratic convention. So that's like a free pass right there. It's not too bad at all. But yeah, I've got to watch crazy for one night. We'll tell you how it goes. But I'll tell you, they will position her as a type of law and order candidate. Stop laughing. They're going to. As someone who's going to be tough, but somebody who wants to bring joy to America and unite America, someone who has a positive outlook for our nation, someone who believes in our country, someone who believes in the hope. You're probably going to hear the word hope. If I had to bet, you're going to hear the word hope quite a bit. That she's the candidate of hope and change. Yes, we can. Just wait. You're going to hear that. You're going to hear the word hope during the Democrat convention. I mean, they're not going to portray her as a liberal at all. And there are going to be protests outside. There are apparently 30,000 people who are planning on protesting in Chicago during the convention next week. And the news media, they're going to do everything they can do to prevent you from seeing the craziness that's happening outside of the arena. I hope some of these people get inside the arena and just go nuts. I hope it's just an absolute dumpster fire outside of the arena and they have to cover it. But the last report I saw was that 30,000 people were planning on protesting because of the and they're all pro-Hamas protesters. And the American people need to see who these people are and what the Democrat Party represents today, which is pro-Hamas, pro-Green New Deal, Kamala Harris being the furthest left nominee that we've ever seen, and she didn't even have to win any primaries. And again, the news media, the national news media, they've just forgotten all about that and acted like it just didn't matter. You know, this is supposedly the party that cares about protecting democracy. And they don't care. They don't care about votes that are cast. They don't care about the sanctity of the vote. Not at all. 806-680-2790. You can weigh in on the text line when we come back. Oh, actually, let me get to a couple of these texts real quick. I had a math class in college with a teacher that wasn't very good. Class average was a 55. One kid making a B and another an A, but had the teacher's copy of the math book with all the problems worked out for test. And he hollowed out a TI-84 shell with his phone inside of it with the Wolfram Alpha pulled up. Wow, it's resourceful. Another texter. Do you remember the documentary Idiocracy with Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph? It's coming true with the Google calculators, Chat GPT, and the like, which are just going to be the downfall of the world. Next, we'll be using sports drinks to water crops, just like in the documentary. Another texture, the Snoopy blue plastic lunchbox with thermos. Still remember Mom's peanut butter and jelly sandwich. After school, I took the enclosed quarter and dime and bought a hamburger at Mimi's Clean Kitchen Drive-In. Or if I scrolled away the $3.50, I could buy a Star Trek bottle from the hobby store. Those were the days. And then threw in the multiplier pencil box. Yeah, image of those. That was pretty cool. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and much more.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Jerry Reed.
Kate Weber.
These are real veterans facing a real challenge.
I have PTSD.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen to anyone.
I was still in a war zone in my mind.
But treatment can turn your life around.
Treatment has really saved my life.
To learn about PTSD and how treatment can help you, call your local VA medical center or visit ptsd.va.gov.
on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, I guess last night, CNN's Caitlin Collins was on Stephen Colbert's show. And this really does. There was a moment during this interview that shows that maybe there's a little bit of hope that people are waking up to this national news media scam, that these people really aren't independent journalists. Let's play this audio from I think it was last night's Colbert show.
Trump has kind of been thrown on his heels by this, and he's not really sure how to go after Vice President Harris. He knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a... I know
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
Did you hear that? That was real. The jokester, Stephen Colbert, he wasn't trying to make a joke when he said everyone knows that you're objective, and the audience laughs. Now, not everybody in the audience. It was probably, but a good number of people who just started laughing at Stephen Colbert. They thought he was joking. They thought it was an obvious joke. And Caitlin Collins was very, very unhappy. She was shocked by it. Was that supposed to be a joke? And Stephen Colbert, no. Let's play that one more time. I think it's very fascinating.
Trump has kind of been thrown on his heels by this. He's not
Collins,
really sure how to go after Vice President Harris. He knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a... I know.
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
See? And then they cut away from it, and they're like, okay, well, we got to keep moving on. That's a pretty good chunk of the audience for Stephen Colbert to be laughing at a line that CNN is... We know CNN is objective. He's trying to go into a serious mode. You can hear the voice. It drops a little bit. Caitlin, we all know that CNN is objective and known for their news reporting, and people just start laughing. It wasn't a funny line. It wasn't unless you know that CNN they're a bunch of scam artists. So maybe there's a little bit of a hope. Maybe there's a little bit there that people are starting to wake up. Texter. Chad, are we all getting punked by the media, libs, and crazy Kamala? Do they not see what we do with her? I don't think the elevator goes to the top. You're missing the point. The news media didn't care that Joe Biden wasn't all there. They didn't care. The news media, they don't care if Kamala Harris is bright or not. They don't care if she's smart. They don't care if they didn't care if Hillary was smart. They didn't care if Hillary was a good person. They didn't care if Al Gore was smart. They didn't care if John Kerry was smart. They didn't care about that. They just didn't want the Republican to win. The news media, they don't want Donald Trump to win. You see, they're having a lot of fun right now with the Democrats being in charge. They're all buddy-buddy. They get to go to the same places. They get to hang out together. These correspondents get to hang out with the politicians. The politicians, they're not scared of these reporters. They're not scared about going on these interview shows. They're not worried about anything. They're not afraid of gotcha moments. They're working hand in hand. The news media was in on this whole deal of getting rid of Joe Biden. As much as I can promise you that, I am 100% convinced that CNN, ABC, CBS, they all were in on this to get rid of Joe. They knew exactly how to do it. And that they worked with the national Democrats to get Joe Biden out of office. Now, they had to have a willing participant in Donald Trump. Donald Trump had to agree to a debate. And he did. He agreed to the early debate. And once they had that early debate, they knew, okay, we can throw Joe out there. He's going to completely collapse. Once he does, we can get rid of Joe and find who the next Democrat is going to be. They didn't want Kamala. I'm convinced to this day that Kamala Harris was not the first choice, but it took longer for Joe to let go. And then you had the $200 million in campaign funds. That's a lot of money. That would have gone away if it was somebody else getting the nomination instead of Kamala Harris. There would have been an issue there. Then you had people raising the issue of, well, she is the vice president. It wouldn't look good if you had someone like the governor of California come in and get the nomination. So everyone just said, okay, we'll go with Kamala. All of this was too well planned for how easily it worked and how easily it came together, and the fact that nobody raised a flag in the Democrat Party. Not one person stood up and made any noise whatsoever like, hey, nobody actually voted for this woman. No primary voter actually cast a ballot for her. It was all part of the plan, folks. And the news media, the national news media, they knew about it. So are we getting punked by the media? Well, sure. But it's not because they're dumb. It's not because they don't understand what's going on. They know fully what's going on. They think you don't. Or that you just don't care. And guess what? The vast majority of Americans either don't or they just don't care. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auction reporting prices steady to $5 higher. Cattle futures were up. August live cattle futures up 68 cents, close at 184. August feeder cattle futures up $2.07, close at 246.47. October cotton futures were down, closed at 67.10. September wheat futures were steady at 5.48 a bushel. September corn down a nickel, closed at 3.78. August soybean futures down 23 cents, closed at $9.89 a bushel. August soybean meal futures down $11.70, closed at $306.60 per ton. August class 3 milk futures up a couple of pennies, closed at $20.58 a hundred. September crude oil futures down $1.61, closed at $78.45 a barrel, and the Dow Jones up 408 points, closed at 39,765. And that's market roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. So,
the news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Don't you forget about Chad at Chad Hasty Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on your radio. Now back to the Chad Hasty Show.
the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Well, CNN, I guess they decided to do a little bit of reporting. CNN has a headline out today. This really will not impact anything within the Democrat Party. In fact, this may actually improve his standing within the Democrat Party. Tim Walz, according to a CNN headline, Walz once praised Muslim leader who shared anti-Semitic propaganda. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz once praised a cleric and leader in the Muslim community who has spread anti-Semitic content on Facebook, according to a video newly revealed by the Washington Examiner. The video features Walz, who was chosen last week to be Vice President Kamala Harris' running mate, speaking at an event hosted by the Muslim American Society of Minnesota stand during his first gubernatorial campaign in 2018. According to the Examiner, in the video, Walz praises the Imam Assad Zaman, executive director of the organization hosting the event, as a master teacher who briefly touches on their shared history. Quote, I would like to first of all say thank you to Imam. I am a teacher, so when I see a master teacher, I know it, Walz says in the video. Over the time we've spent together, one of the things I've had the privilege of seeing and the things in life through the eyes of a master teacher to try and get the understanding, listening today to the stories and what it means. Walz's appearance alongside the Muslim cleric, one of several in recent years, came after Zaman had shared a link in 2015 to a neo-Nazi propaganda film that portrayed Adolf Hitler in a positive light. Zaman also shared a Hamas press release in 2016 mourning the death of a Bangladesh Muslim politician who was executed after being found guilty of war crimes. In the wake of an October 7th attack by Hamas inside Israel, Zaman has shared anti-Israel posts on social media. On October 7th, he expressed solidarity with the Palestinians against Israeli attacks while sharing a statement from the Muslim American Society of Minnesota condemning Israel's recent unprovoked attacks. Earlier that day, Zaman shared a post arguing that Palestine has the right to defend itself. In a statement to CNN, the Harris campaign spokesperson, Lauren Hitt, said that Walz and Zaman do not have a personal relationship. That sounds pretty personal. Both the governor and he do not have a personal relationship. Governor Walz strongly condemns Hamas terrorism. Oh, that's probably not going to play well among the pro-Hamas crowd in the Democrat Party. CNN has reached out to Zaman and the Muslim American Society of Minnesota for comment. Walz has met and appeared alongside Zaman on multiple occasions as governor, including meeting as recently as last year about a spike in security concerns at local mosque. In a 2018 video, Walz also says that he spoke to Zaman after a 2017 bombing of a mosque in Bloomington, Minnesota, separately discussed Zaman U.S. policy towards Syrian refugees under the Trump administration and growing resistance of Islamophobia at the time. Quote, to be very honest, in this space, Imam Zaman is right. There is Islamophobia. There is a hatred that is being stirred. There are people in leadership positions making this situation worse, Walz says in the video. So while they don't have a personal relationship, they've met several times. Not as many times as Tim Walz has been to China. I don't know if he'll ever have to answer questions about that. I mean, 30 trips to China, honeymooning in China. I mean, he really does love going to China. He loves being in China. Says that he's never been treated as nicely as when he went to China. Any red flags that pop up there for anybody? 806-680-2790. Speaking of Tim Walz, a Minnesota grandmother jailed for defying Walz's COVID lockdown orders, warning people you do not want tyranny at this level. Lisa Hansen warning Americans against electing the Minnesota governor as VP. He will take your rights away. Of course, there's been a lot of focus on Tim Walz, as there should be. But at the end of the day, this is a race between Harris and Trump, and that's what everyone's going to be voting on. Tim Walz he's terrible. He's a horrible candidate. Yeah, we can point out as much as we want to about his ties to China, that he wanted students to downplay their Americanness when they went to China. That at a Breitbart. You had Peter Schweizer said in an interview on Breitbart that Walz's affection towards China, the exchange program that he set up, funded by the Chinese Communist Party, quote, you can like China, you can like the Chinese people. The question is, when you set up an exchange program, as he did, to bring students to China, you're not dealing with the Chinese people, you're dealing with the Chinese Communist Party. Explaining that Walz's program was funded by the CCP, organized with the help of the Communist Party. And Walz apparently told students to downplay their Americanness when they went to China. Sounds pretty communist to me. 806-680-2790. But at the end of the day, this is a race between Trump and Kamala Harris. That's what everyone's going to be voting for. They're not going to be looking at the vice presidents and deciding who they're going to vote for based on VP. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and we'll begin to wrap things up.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
I'm Scarlett Johansson. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. You can join the movement to end hunger by donating, volunteering, and advocating. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
All right, back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I got about a few minutes left here for you to get in. You can text in at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Sound off on any of the topics that we've been getting into. You can, of course, weigh in on. Still have time for you to weigh in on the running topic today, which is the back to school, the must-have back to school items from when you were a kid. What were those must-have items? You can text in. We've got a few that have come in on the app chat as well. Don't forget, you can always get in touch with us on the app chat through your station's app, and you can send us a message. Lots of trapper keepers that have come in. Also, the Mr. Sense markers. I remember those. Let's see. Another texture. Had to have the Walkman, man. It's old school. It's good. That's really good. Another, let's see, David. Chad, remember when you had to take a floppy disk to school? Now, there were floppy disks that you had to take. I don't think I ever had to take one. One texter asking, do they still have overhead projectors in schools? One day we had to take in the things that you would use for the overhead projectors and tell stories on them. That was a horrible day. I kept looking into the bright light and was blinded. 806-680-2790. Another texter said, had a Batman lunchbox. It was the best. So you could go superhero. You had lots of TV shows that had their own lunchboxes. You had a text earlier with the Dukes of Hazzard, having those lunchboxes. Everyone had their own little lunchbox and a thermos that they would take with them to school. 806-680-2790. A couple of folks weighed in. Hey, Chad, this is Bill from North Carolina, wondering what you thought of the Musk-Trump interview. I didn't get to hear a lot of it because I couldn't get in. But from what I did hear, I thought it went fine. It's not getting a lot of play today, I think, because people kind of gave up on tuning in and listening to it when they were having some technical difficulty. I knew it would have technical difficulties. Obviously, with Trump being on there, it was going to. I had a feeling that it was going to crash. CNN at one point they tried to make it sound as though Trump and Elon Musk were saying that nuclear bombing is not a big deal. They got caught on that. Mind weighing in, brown paper sacks to use as book covers. Yeah, that's what we second text that we've had about the brown paper bags as book covers. See, for the book covers, they would just give us book covers inside the classroom and go, all right, go to town. Go to town, have fun with the book covers. Still, people would, and of course, you had to have the big backpack, especially once you get to high school. You had to have the big backpack, so that way you could walk around with all your books, even though you had a locker. I never knew anyone to go to their locker. I never knew anyone to spend time at their locker. They had one, but they never really spent time at their locker. Everyone was carried around their own, 50 pounds worth of books. I remember at one time they said that was very dangerous, and it was hurting kids' backs that they were carrying around so many books. Texture, I know Walls has too much to go after, but it's Kamala we have to beat. We don't need a leader that's always cackling and acting like we're all having a fun time. We need a seriousness on all fronts right now. Listen, I don't care that she has fun. I don't care even. I mean, she cackles a little too much, but I don't even care that she pretends to have fun. If she had good policies, she could be laughing up a storm, and I'd be fine because the policies were there. I care about the policies, and she has horrendous policies. And you're right, she is the one we had to stop. Tim Walz is a disaster, but nobody's going to vote for Kamala Harris because of Tim Walz. It's not going to happen. They're going to vote for Kamala Harris because they want Kamala Harris as president, just like with Donald Trump. Nobody's voting for J.D. Vance. They're voting for Trump. Trump's the top of the ticket. Texter, didn't have a backpack in high school. We hung out by our lockers in the 80s. Never took a book home. See, completely opposite when I was in high school. It's like, yeah, we took books home, but everyone carried around a big backpack. Had tons of stuff in there. 806-680-2790. You can get in on the text line. Still have a little bit more time for you to weigh in. Another texter with always had to start the new school year with brand new shirt, brand new jeans, brand new shoes, brand new haircut as well. And yes, mom and dad would always take pictures on the first day of school. Okay, that's the rite of passage. You always have to have the first day of school picture. Now, you usually have the kids like holding up something saying it's the first day, like they've been kidnapped or something, and they're being hostage. They're being held as a hostage, so they have to hold up a sign going "First day of school." Parents tell them to blink twice, and then all the parents have their cell phones out taking pictures of the kids getting ready to go off to school. Got to post the pictures on social media. Let everybody know. Got to have the brand new kicks on. Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Follow us on social media at Chad HD Radio. We'll be back with you again tomorrow, beginning at 5 p.m. Should be another fun show. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless you all. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 5 p.m.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.